Hello, my fellow chatterers, and hopefully stat lovers. If not, you're going to be very bored. And everyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chatty. This is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away, probably not madly, probably rather sleepily, about my 2023 stats. Yes, what better time to talk about stats for the past year than at the beginning of May. Yay! Anyway, apologies for the chaos. I already feel it's just going to be chaotic because I'm filming this before 6 o'clock in the morning because I don't know when else I'm going to film at the moment. I just don't have filming time because of life. But I really want to get some of these videos out there for my own personal benefit. I generally do not think anyone is actually going to care about my 2023 stats, especially when I'm posting it in May. But as well as enjoying having conversations with people about books and getting to share the love of books, this is also kind of like my reading diary. I kind of enjoy logging my experience with books and everything, and part of that is all the stats that I kind of accumulate, and kind of just I enjoy seeing how it varies from year to year. So it's just my inner book nerd just nerding away happily to itself. So I really want to do that. I've got some other ones doing it coming up that I want to do. It feels the waffle is already crazy. So if I look incredibly sleepy, it's because I am. But I don't have any other, I can't work out how else to be able to do this. And there's other videos that I'm wanting to do, and it's all kind of logging up. And I'm already 5 months behind with this one. This one should have come out in January. But I was really enjoying doing all of the bootcamp readathon stuff. So I sacrificed things like this in order to do that kind of content. So here we are, but it is fine because I have a cozy mug of hot chocolate. This is a Piglet mug, so we can see lovely Piglet with the drawings of Piglet all around here. And I have a chocolate chip biscuit, a Fox's chocolate chip biscuit, I might add, so it's very fancy drinking. And it's good. So all of these things are going to help me stay awake. But welcome to a cozy stats video, which is not really a combination of words you expect to hear. Stats aren't cozy, but we're going to try. Right, the waffle is already on another level, so let's embrace it and move on and try and crack on with this video. If you're new here, this is not the best video to be starting with. May I recommend I have several other ones that are a lot more cohesive and fun. However, thank you for popping in. It's lovely to see you. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you again so much for joining me on the crazy. But let's try and keep it a minimum. I don't have my little gimmicky teacup. I do all of my long videos in one shot because I don't edit for several reasons. So chaos will be chaosing. So cheers, everyone. Clink. It's one shot, no edit. The hot chocolate is really going to help me through this. This is going to be great. Okay. So my stats for 2023. Well, this is going to be dangerous. Hold on. I don't have enough table room for the hot chocolate, and it's so much easier if I put it in front of me. Okay, nothing has collapsed. It's great. Right, let's just move on and hope that stays. So what I'm going to be talking about the angle is now a bit weird. Oh, hello. Okay, lovely. What I'm going to be talking about in this video is I'm going to kind of go through my overall stats of the year for my series. I'm going to go through my how many books I've hauled compared to read, and kind of how I'm doing with reading what I own. Then I'm going to be going on to the general stats, like how many books have I been reading, sizes, genres, all of that jazz. I have no visuals. I've already mentioned I can't edit my video. We don't edit my long videos, so I can't intersperse anything in here. But another reason this video took so long is because it took me a long time to accumulate my stats, because I'm not a sensible person. I could just do Storygraph and then I'd have all this wonderful data and charts to present you with. I have some sort of mental block when it comes to filling in Storygraph, and like I'll manage maybe like a month, I'll be really good at it, and then it will just drop off. so that's something I want to work on, because I do want to do Storygraph, but you know, as I'm filming a video at 5 a.m. I think possibly something has to give in my life, and I think Storygraph is what it is. I really should just commit to writing one sentence, because I love like being able to put all the trigger warnings in, and then I'm not someone that will just do a short synopsis. Being as my shorter videos are 20 minutes on BookTube, I don't think I'm going to be writing a short sentence, but maybe I'll try it, and maybe I'll try that for June. Maybe that will be my challenge in June, to see if I can just do a sentence, because I would like that data. I would like to use Storygraph properly. Anyway, I haven't at all. So the way I log my books, what works for me is I love Google Notes. I think they're called Google Notes. Anyway, Notes. Lots of little like post-sticky things, and I do little pictures. So if you are interested in any of that kind of stuff, I will, in my community tab, upload kind of the key of what all the little pictures mean, and then I will upload my picture graph. So I love just like putting all my categories, for example, book sizes. I will have my smallest books, which I call an ant, all the way to my biggest books, which I call a dinosaur. And then I have little symbols of like a stack of books means 10, and then an individual book means 1, and so I have like a picture graph of how much I've read. So I do enjoy doing all of that, so that made me very happy. Also took several months to do, so maybe I should be doing that as I go along. We will see. So I gathered all of that information together, and it's very satisfying. I love seeing that, and I love being able to compare it. So I did it for the first time last year, so I love being able to compare the 2022 data with the 2023 data. So let's go straight in. Series. Again, I can't do visuals. Last year I had like book stacks of how much I actually completed in series, which was so satisfying. I really recommend you do that. If you feel you're not making progress in series, just get out everything that contributed towards series, so books you progressed and books you finished, and then you'll have this massive pile, and it will actually be quite satisfying, unless literally you've finished and progressed with the 0 series and started about 20, then it won't be so satisfying, but otherwise it is. I've recently done a series about series video where I talk about I do it in terms. So I've recently spoken about my winter term, so if you're interested in that, I will leave the link here, so you can go and check that out. And at 5 a.m, I absolutely cannot face pulling a load of books off their shelves to do a book stack. So I'm just going to give you numbers, I'm afraid. So with the series, so at the start of the year for 2023, I was currently up to date with 7 series. So I've got 7 series where I'd read everything there was, but the next books had not been published. And I was in the middle of, so I was currently reading 21 series. So I would love if by the end of the year, that number of currently reading, I don't really mind about up-to-date ones, but the number I'm currently reading has gone down. Throughout the whole year, I finished 12 series. So either I read everything there was in that series and finished off that series, or I read as much as I was going to and then chose to not finish that series. So I had 12 finished, which that's like 1 a month, which is very, I feel very happy with that. I've made progress in 10 series. So again, that's great. So that means 22 series I had been working on or completely finished. So that's awesome. So 10 series progressed, 12 finished, and I started 17. I'm okay with that because I'm going to give you the data from 2022, which is a lot higher. So I've ended the year with 12 series up to date and 19 currently reading. So as I started off the year with 21, I have managed to cut that by 2. So I will take that. I will absolutely take that. I'm up to date with 12 as opposed to 7. And again, that doesn't really affect me. So compared with 2022, where I'd started the year with 4 up to date and 11 currently reading, that's quite a nice number. I finished 14. That was very good. That was very, very good. Progressed with 8. So altogether, I had been working on, again, 22, unless my maths is faulty. Is my maths faulty? No, yeah, again 22. So that's a nice average. I obviously currently work on 2022 series a year. Let's see what 2024 brings. But I'd started 31, so that's why I'm very happy with 17, because it's not 31. I obviously got quite crazy in 2022. So I had a big increase from currently reading. So I had a big increase of 10 series. So I was currently reading 11 and then was 21 by the end of the year. So to have started with 21 series I was currently reading and end on 19, I'm so over the moon with that. That's amazing. So with my series, I kind of am referring to all of this data from December 22 to November 23. So like that's where I begin to start my year. I like to kind of round everything up in November, because December I think is its own form of chaos, quite frankly, because everything is taken over by Christmas. And I really want to enjoy Christmas. I don't want to feel stressed about Christmas. It's a lovely holiday. I want to be with family. I want to get excited about preparing for the birth of Jesus. I love all the peace and joy that it's supposed to like represent and bring. And mainly it's just like stress and tears is what that season brings. I really don't want that. So I like to finish everything off in November so you just chill out and enjoy December. Is the theory behind that. So all of these data kind of, I'm not talking about December 23, that moves on to my 24 stats for the series, not for everything else, because why make things simple? So I talk about the winter term is from December 22 to March 23. The spring/summer term is April 23 to the end of July 23, and then the autumn term is August 23 to the end of November 23. So breaking it down into how much I read for each term towards series. So this is starting, progressing, up to date and finishing. So for working on my series in the winter term, I read 12 books. In the spring/summer term, I read 20. And in the autumn term, I read 19. So sort of balancing out. I kind of started to focus more on series as we kind of moved on through the year. So in my finished book stack, if I presented you with my book stacks, there would be 28 books that contributed towards me finishing series in that book stack. These are, so I started and finished the Unmapped Chronicles, which was lovely. I buddy read those with Readathon, which was so nice. So this is a middle grade fantasy series by Abby Elphinstone. And there are 4 books, so they're all kind of like average middle grade size, so probably about a bigger pile. I finished the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. So I read 3 of the books. I read Titan's Curse, Battle of the Labyrinth, and The Last Olympian. For that one, so that's 3, and they are kind of like about that size. I've got these lovely hardbacks, so then there we go, that would be that little part of the stack. I read the Rain Wild Chronicles by Robin Hobb, which is the 4th series in the realm of the Elderlings, and there are 4 books in that, and they're quite chunky size, so that one was about that. I read the Binti trilogy, which are novellas, so there were 3 of them, but they're novellas, so like I have a whole complete works, which is kind of like that. But they were amazing. I read the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, which is the final series in the realm of the Elderlings, and these books are massive, like they're like that, so this will be like that. I finished off the Ember and the Ashes quartet. I read the last 2 books, so I read Reaper at the Gate and The Sky Beyond the Storm, and they're again quite chunky, so I'd say like that for the book stack. I hope you're visually building this up. I'm not really, I'm joking. Then I read the last 2 books in Mary Stuart's Merlin trilogy. So that was Hollow Hills and The Last Enchantment, and then I've got paperbacks, they're probably a bit bigger, but I'd say like that would be the Merlin ones. I then listened to the audiobooks of The High Rise Mystery and Mic Drop by, I've forgotten her name, Shauna Jackson. So they are 2 middle grade mystery books. So I'd say they were probably like that. And yeah, and then I had, so I'm not counting this in my stack, but I DNF'd Harry the Ninth, so I'm not reading the Locked Tomb series anymore. So I wouldn't count that in the stack. I listened to the audiobook for 2 of the Crescent City books. I enjoyed The House of Earth and Blood, hated House of Sky and Breath, and decided to DNF the series. But, you know, that again is 2 massive, massive books. Yeah, if I was not audiobooking, that would not have happened. And finally, I read Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I loved Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Really enjoyed Take a Hint, Dani Brown. But I very much feel like these are very much companion novels, and I may or may not get to Eve Brown just because it's not accessible in my library. Romance is not necessarily one of my favourite genres, so I'm not really out searching for it. I loved Chloe, one of my favourites, but Dani was enjoyable, but I'm not specifically going to be searching for Eve. So I've decided to just kind of like take that off my series. If I read Eve, fine. If I don't, also fine. So I'm taking it off my series running. So there we go. So those are all the series that I finished within the year. I made progress on 8. Was it 8? I'm sure it's more than, no, I'm on 13. So there were 13 books in my progress pile. So I read Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston, which is the second Amari book. I read Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend, which is the third one in the Nevermore series. I read and got up to date with Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. So that is Her Majesty's Royal Coven and the Shadow Cabinet. I finished Rainbow Grey trilogy by reading Eye of the Storm, which is a middle grade. That was lovely. I continued with the Adventures on Train series by reading the third book, Murder on the Safari Star. Pardon me. I started and made a lot of progress in the Pinch of Magic series. So that's the Widdersham Sisters, that's the Widdersham, also known as the Widdersham Sisters by Michelle Harrison. So I read A Pinch of Magic, Sprinkle of Sorcery and Tangle of Spells. That's also a middle grade. And then I read the next book in the Lizzie and Bell mysteries, which is Portrait and Poison by J.T. Williams, which is a middle grade mystery. I read the next book, Onyeka and the Rise of the Rebels, in the Onyeka series, also middle grade. I read Bloodmarked by Tracy Deon, which is the second book in the Legendborn cycle, which is a YA fantasy. And I read Foxglove by Adeline Grace, which is the second book in the Belladonna series, which I think is classed as YA. Yeah, that's a fantasy romance with some spooky elements and mystery elements as well. Okay, so I think that is everything I want to say about series. Yeah, so there we go. That is my series. So I'm pretty happy with how I did this series. I'd say it's pretty much leveling up with 2022, and I'm going to carry on chipping away in 2024. I do get a big satisfaction from completing series and reading them much closer together, because I get more. So when you're like in that moment with these characters and with this story, to keep the momentum going rather than having a massive break in between books where you've got to kind of remember what's going on and you've probably lost those relationships you had a little bit with those characters. It just works a lot better for me if I read the series closer together, and I enjoy them a lot more. Okay, we're going to move into the haul. And again, with the haul, I count it from December 22 to November 23 when I'm looking at my hauls. So in 2023, I read 118 books. I hauled 81 books. So I read more than I hauled, so that's a win. Of those 81 books, I read 34 and DNF'd 1. So that kind of average is that's around 41% of what I hauled I read. I will take that because in 2021 I hauled 99 and read 51 of them. So that was pretty much like 51%, which was really good. But that was my first year of like really getting into book buying. 2022, where I was so excited about book buying, I hauled 111 books and I read 35 of them. So a much lower percentage of reading what I hauled. So having 41% reading what I hauled, I feel very happy with. I'd like to kind of increase that number, but very happy with that for the time being. So having done now many years of doing larger hauls, so I started buying books again in 2021. So up until that point, I would buy a book once in a blue moon, I would use my library, and I would reread. So it was also kind of around the time where I really got into BookTube, got a lot more ideas about what books were out there, and had a better idea of what I'd enjoy. And we were kind of at a point in my life where I had more money to spend on books, so it took off. So in 2023, I read 23 of my 2022 haul. So there were 75 of those books left to read. So I read about 31% of my 22 haul. I read 11 books of my 2021 haul, of which there were 42 books left. So that is about 26%. So it's okay. I would like to improve those numbers again, but we will take that. That is perfectly acceptable. So adding all of those hauls together, so that is 46 books left from, no, hold on, we're ignoring that. So I read 34 plus a DNF. I don't know if I included that or not. If you're someone who enjoys maths, you can let me know. 23 and 11 altogether makes 68 books that I read from my last 3 book hauls. So that means there's 50 books unaccounted for. So these will be books from the library, from my pre-2021 haul, books I've borrowed, and books I have reread. So that is a big improvement. I am definitely hauling less and reading a bigger percentage of what I own. So the stats of what I read over the year: I read 79 books that were mine, 31 books from the library, 4 books I borrowed, and 11 books and 4 books I borrowed. So not quite 50 books from the library, so we've definitely got plus 4, that'll be 35. So we've definitely got some other books to account for here. 11 books were reread, which kind of works quite beautifully in 79 books that are mine, 68 books were hauled. So that kind of works well. I don't necessarily know if that is the case, but that kind of fits my stats. And 106 books were new reads to me. So a rough idea of where those books, other books came from, possibly. And that were sort of unaccounted for from that 50 books that were not part of my most recent hauls. So looking now, I went through kind of all my shelves and I unhauled 4 books. I have from my newly acquired book hauls. So the books I have left are 46 books for my 2023 haul, 51 books for my 2022 haul, 29 books for my 2021 haul. So that's a total of 126 books that are part of my physical TBR that I've never read before. So there we go. So I know exactly what I'm working on as we go into, oh my goodness, my eyes are doing weird things. As we go into 2024, and we've certainly gone away into 2024 because this is the start of May. So because I still track like how much of my hauls I'm reading. Again, I have lists on my Google lists where every time I haul a book, I add it into there. I do little symbols of like months and whether this was a book box, whether this was a gift or something I've won. That helps me when I do my book haul videos. If you're interested in my book haul videos, I'll put my most recent one, my winter book haul, here should you like to have a look. And so I'm tracking all of that on my notes and kind of keeping it up to date. What I started doing this year is I've started logging the percentage of what I'm reading. So I would love if by the end of June, so halfway through the year, I have read 25% of my previous hauls and like 33% of books I've hauled this year. I'd love it if I hit those stats, so we'll find out if that's what happens by the end of June. I might put it in my mid-year freakout. Okay, I'm going to move on to the actual stats now. And for the statistics of the year, I do count it from January 23 to the end of December 23 for this. Why? Because that's how I roll. It doesn't have to make sense. It works for me, which is the important thing. So in terms of the size of books that I have read, I like to compare my books to animals because I love that visual image. So an ant is anything that is 150 pages or less. A mouse is 151 to 300. Goat 301 to 400. Cow 401 to 500. Elephant 501 to 700. Whale 701 to 900, and a dinosaur is anything that is over 900 pages. So in the year of 2023, I read 9 ant-sized books, 36 mouse-sized books, 38 goat-sized books, 16 cow-sized books, 12 elephant-sized books, 5 whale-sized books, which I'm pretty sure is Fits in the Fall and the 2 Crescent City books, and no dinosaurs. I did not read books that were over 900 pages in 2023. So my most popular is The Mouse at 36, lisping away. The Mouse at 36 and The Goat at 38. So basically I tend to read books that are 150 to 400 pages, which makes sense because that is the most average book length. Right, I think it is now time for the cookie because I'm starting to lose the ability to speak. Nom nom nom. That May was my best month for having a whole variety of sizes. In May I had 6 different sizes. I had 1 ant, 2 mice, 2 goats, 1 cow, 1 elephant and 1 whale. So that's a whole plethora. Moving on now to genres. Can you guess what the genre I read the most books was? Of course it was fantasy. So I read 57 fantasy books. I read 15 contemporary books, which generally does tend to be my second highest genre. The rest kind of surprised me about how much books I did read from the other genres, which is really nice. 10 historical fictions, 9 non-fictions, massive surprise, 7 magical realism, 6 sci-fi, which is mainly thanks to Binti, 5 mysteries, 3 classics. That's the one I do want to improve on. I'd like to get that kind of higher to like 4 or 5. 2 spooky books, 1 romance and 1 dystopia. Again, that makes sense. If I'm reading a romance, I prefer it to be more of a side to, so I did, like I said, I have read some fantasy romance. Generally that doesn't work for me, but I have found a couple that I love and absolutely hit that spot between brilliantly told fantasy and high chemistry and banter. But I classed those in the fantasy rather than in the romance. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Dystopia, I do want to read more dystopia. I do enjoy a dystopia. So I'd like to read a little bit more of that this year. I'd like to read a little bit more sci-fi as well. I'd like to read a little bit more mystery. I had some great fun with some mysteries, and I'd like to carry on reading non-fiction. I think that's quite a nice, about 9 or 10 for non-fiction. That makes sense. yeah, and also historical fiction I did enjoy. I don't think I'd want to read any more than what I have read. I think that was a good number for me, because fantasy will always be my first love and what I want to be reading the most of. So in terms of a mix of genre, my best month was November. No, it wasn't. That was a lie. That was my best fantasy month. Mix of genre was April. So April, I can understand, it was my biggest reading month. I read 15 books. I still don't know how I did that. Well, most of them were small. They were smaller books. So I read 3 non-fiction, which is very much thanks to Transcore April. 6 fantasy, 1 historical, 1 classic, 2 sci-fi, thanks to Binti. And oh no, I didn't know I had 2 different ones in there. Yeah, no, I did. I had two different sci-fis in there. It wasn't just Binti, which is exciting. And 2 contemporary. So that was great. that was a great like range of different genres, and I did have a really good reading month in April 23, so that was great. My biggest fantasy reading month, I read 7 fantasies in both July and November, but I'm going to talk about July later. So in November, what have I written here? Oh yeah, I've also written. So in November I read 7 fantasy, but I also read 1 spooky, 1 contemporary, and 1 mystery. That kind of helped balance that all out. But yeah, looking back on my November books, I had a really great reading month in November. I really loved the books that I was reading. And I think the fantasy was kind of very much a mixture. I had a desert one. I had some sort of more cozy middle grade ones. I had more of like a spooky fantasy romance. Like there was a really nice kind of mixture of the different fantasy genres in there as well. So yeah, that was great. And moving on now to, I've got 3 different books of notes here, which is weird. Age ranges. So within age ranges, I'm also going to touch a little bit on my goals. I have finished with that book now. Just these ones. So with age ranges, for the year, I read 47 adult books, 26 YA books, and 44 middle grade books. So one of my goals was to have a third of what I read each month being middle grade, because I love middle grade and I wanted to read more middle grade. And I think I definitely achieved that. I had some months that worked better than others, but looking at the year stats, I've surpassed it. Like I'm very, very happy with that. It's pretty much matching, like adult and middle grade is pretty much matching each other, and then YA comes a bit further down, which I'm fine with. So yeah, that's great. In terms of like my best month for a variety of ages, that was August. So I had 4 adult, 4 middle grade, and 2 YA, and I really like that spread, and that's a nice spread for me. I feel very happy with that. So I do enjoy YA, but if I read too much of it, then it annoys me. But I do like it kind of balancing out the kind of more slower paced adult, because you rush straight in there with a YA. So yeah, that's cool. And I like to balance the adult and the middle grade, where like you have a lot of kind of like more denser, more adult explored themes, but with the middle grade you still have those kind of themes being explored, but in a much more like wholesome, comforting way. So yeah, that's a really good balance for me. My best middle grade reading month, what a surprise, was July. So March was close, and so was November. I had 6 books there, middle grade. November surprised me because there was no reason for it to be that high, whereas March I had middle grade March, and July I had Journeyathon, so that's both middle grade readathons. If you're not sure what Journeyathon is, I'll put a link to the Journeyathon playlist here. It is a readathon, middle grade based readathon that I do. So yeah, so that's not really surprising that I read my highest middle grade reading month was then. So focusing again on the goals. So I definitely have improved from doing this this goal of trying to read more middle grade. So in 2022 I read 63 adult books, 22 YA and 27 middle grade. So it was definitely like adult books was mainly what I was reading. So I've really kind of turned it around for this year. So I feel really happy with that. Looking at kind of, I also like to look at like half the year compared to the other half of the year. And there was kind of a nice like split for the first half of the year. It was kind of like adults, middle grade, YA, and it was kind of like 30 adults, 20 middle grade, 10 YA. So that kind of like nice step ladder of stuff. The second half of the year, I was reading a lot more middle grade. I do find this interesting because like we obviously get a lot more kind of like autumn and wintry to like towards the second half of the year, and kind of like that slow down off the summer. And I definitely discovered this year that I was definitely reaching for kind of like cozier books as it got a bit darker. Like a mixture of kind of like spooky and then cozy was kind of what I really wanted to be reading sort of as we kind of went into autumn. So I had a much higher percentage for the second half of the year being middle grade. So it was very much like middle grade was mainly what I was reading, and then adult and YA were kind of on a level. So I found that really interesting. The next stat I will be looking at is my other goal, which is my I want to have half of what I'm reading each month being global majority. This one's not so good. This is the one that I still need to keep working on. And I'm still kind of trying to analyze like why this is. And again, I think it is just that I can't remember when I started making this goal, but I am making more of an effort to be looking for books that really appeal to me, that are not just white Eurocentric stories. So I want to be reading more stories where they are set in another country, or written by authors whose experience is much more different to mine. So just trying to read more diversely, and seeking out authors where they have a different heritage as well. So I'm getting kind of a wider representation of the protagonists and characters in my books, because I find that a lot more satisfying. And I also want to be kind of like part of the demographic that's, I don't know if that's the right word. It's still early morning. I'm now clearly stretching. Sorry, guys. Thank you, chatterers. Oh, sorry. Right. Maybe I just need to have a little pause and a little wake up. Okay, I think I'm a little bit more awake again now. So yeah, I definitely want to be kind of like part of the movement to be showing publishers we do want to be reading a variety of stories. We want a variety of authors. We want a variety of we want a better kind of like spread of representation within our stories. So please keep publishing more of these. Thank you so much. So yeah, but like I said, I'm not quite hitting that. So in 2023, my final numbers came in. I had 44 books that were global majority and 72 that were white Eurocentric. So that's not half. That is definitely not half. It's an improvement on 2022. I had 34 global majority to 78 white Eurocentric. So it's coming closer together. So I'm working on this rather than that. So the numbers starting to kind of be more balanced rather than a lot more white Eurocentric books being read. And then looking at kind of like the difference between the first half of the year and the second half of the year. First half of the year was pretty good. There was only a difference of 5 books between global majority and white Eurocentric. I still had read more white Eurocentric than global majority, but there was only by 5. Whereas the second half of the year, there was a 22 book difference. So again, I don't know why. I don't quite know why the second half of the year just kind of I lost it a bit more. I think it could be because then I was definitely working on trying to finish off a lot more series by that point, and a lot of the series I'm reading are white Eurocentric. That balance has started changing now because I have been seeking out more books and trying to find more stories that are more global majority ones. So that is reflected in the series that I am reading more, but obviously I'm still continuing with other ones. Yeah, so that's the stats. I'll keep working on it. But it's an improvement on global majority, but not a big enough improvement to what I want. So still going to keep working on that because got to keep persevering. I think that is everything that I've wanted to talk about. Yes, we are done. We are done with all those stats. So there we go. If you made it this far through all the sleepiness, then feel free to leave any kind of emoji that makes you think of stats and data. Give me all your best data gathering emojis. And thank you so much, because I'm aware this video is not necessarily the most exciting. I find this all really interesting because it's very much like I like to reflect on my reading. I like to see what I'm doing. Am I kind of continuing with goals? Why is it that I'm not? I enjoy all of that, but it's not for everyone. And obviously this is my reading, so it's personal to me. So if you have come along for this journey, thank you so much. Even if you don't want to say anything, even if you're just here watching, I do really appreciate it. So thank you for your support. But if you would like to give me any comments in the boxes below, do you track what you read over the year? What things are you most interested in? Is there anything specific you're trying to do with your reading and improve it? I'd love to hear all of that. Or do you just not care? Do you just like grab books and read them because why make it complicated? That's absolutely valid as well, and I'd just love to hear. Everyone does things differently, and I just find it really interesting. So if you want to get chatty in the comments, I would really enjoy that, because I love a chat. Happy reading, everybody.